Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast for our final segment of the day, where we are going to be breaking down the series between the Boston Red Sox and Los Angeles Dodgers. And the Sox were headed into the All-Star break really feeling good about themselves. 11 games over 500 in play for the division. Granted, a little bit of a long shot in terms of our actual expectations. The numbers may say one thing, but we know that the Orioles are, I would say, significantly better than the Red Sox are. But most importantly for the Sox, they were holding a playoff spot in the wild card. The final wild card spot was theirs, and instead they come out this past weekend and they end up losing all three games to a Los Angeles Dodgers team where, of course, it's the Dodgers, and they are never going to be a bad opponent, even if they have some injuries. But on that note, dealing with a lot of injuries, especially with their pitchers, Mookie Betts, you throw that into the equation as well, and this felt like a series where the Sox very easily could have won it. And now it's not an overreaction because you lose to the Dodgers. Again, still a very good team sitting at, came into the series, I believe it was 15 games over 500 and, convincingly in the lead of their division, but felt like a place where they could have stolen some, and instead they ended up losing, and in large part it was because of a lot of self-inflicted wounds. They led in all three of these games. I think that they should have won games 1 and 2, and you can make an argument for all three games that they should have won, and now you can say that about the majority of sports games, but for the Sox to come away entirely shorthanded is just very disappointing for them, and they left way too many base runners on throughout the series. The tone was in game 1 where they had 9 hits, but they only scored 1 run. They were 5 of 39 with runners in scoring position throughout this entire series, and that, especially when you look at game 1, was an absolute killer for you, that you allowed the Dodgers to either get away with opportunities or you gave them opportunities because of the fact that, especially, game 1, the Red Sox, I would say, should have significantly been outplaying the Dodgers, but instead that's a game in the 9th inning, and you end up seeing how that game ends up working out. Kenley blows his second save of the series. He really, really struggled in this one overall. He came into the 9th inning in game 2, and he ended up giving up a home run to Kike Hernandez that ended up continuing the game on. Now, in extra innings, we saw some of the other issues with him, which the reality is that, their bullpen is just very gassed at this point. And that's why, Greg Weissart is pitching at the end of that game, who has been really, really bad for them over the past couple months. And, you have just some players that aren't as available as you would like. Zach Kelly has been somebody that has been somewhat reliable, but when he's playing, but he's fresh off of coming back from injury. You have Chris Martin and Justin Slayton, all of these bullpen arms that aren't available for you right now, and that's where the offense needs to capitalize on opportunities when they are given to them. And the offense, really outside of, I would say, Jarren Duran, who was pretty incredible in this series, hitting 500, 1.250 slugging percentage, 1.821 OPS. Outside of him, you were getting very little contributions from the offense as a whole, but that's not even maybe fully fair to say, because you look at game 3 as well, where the Red Sox were able to get after James Paxton early on in that game. Paxton, a former Red Sox, so, a little bit of something there, but Duran ends up hitting the 2-run home run in the first inning that you got to feel good about, and then ultimately it was a tie game by the end of the first, and the Sox, who have just really struggled against left-handed pitching, something we've been talking about a good amount here on the show, they're now 12-17 against left-handed starters this season, and they could have had Paxton on the ropes, but instead they let Paxton get out of that inning without even trailing, and then he ends up striking out 7 batters and going 6 innings. And Paxton is by no means a strikeout pitcher, so you kind of let the Dodgers get away with one there, where they are dealing with so many injuries to their starting rotation, and some of their arms as well are very taxed, and instead you let a guy in Paxton just kind of humiliate a number of batters. Abreu had some really tough at-bats in this game, and again, it's just the struggles against left-handers continues to be a very consistent theme with them, and something that if they want to be taken seriously this season, they have to find a way, probably through the trade deadline, of acquiring at least one hitter who you can rely on more against left-handed pitching, because, as we've been talking about it, Jarren Duran has actually done a pretty good job up to this point of being able to go against lefties. They really babied him for his first couple seasons when he was emerging as an everyday guy, that they didn't want him seeing left-handers. And now that's, I don't know if I'd call it a strength, but it's not a weakness of his game. And he's just kind of on an island by himself. Now, it doesn't help that you get some bad series from guys like Abreu and more importantly, Rafael Devers. But the offense definitely felt like they let way too many opportunities get out of their hands. Like I said, some of their pitchers that have been, their best arms did not perform well this series. Kenley had the 2 appearances, the blown save in Game 2, and then he came in again on Sunday night in Game 3, pitched the 8th inning, and he allowed 3 earned runs on three hits. So he was just a really inopportune time for him to not be the best version of himself. And then also in Game 3, you saw Cutter Crawford really struggle, where he had gone, I believe it was all of June, with 1 run allowed, 1 earned run, and he just got hit so hard in this game. He allowed, I want to say, let me double check the stats here, but he allowed, I believe it was 5 home runs. Yeah, it was. It was to Freeman, Hernandez, Lux, and Barnes, and Ohtani. I mean, did he pitch all of those? Did he allow 6 possibly? So poor management on my part in terms of having those numbers together, but it was ridiculous. 5 innings pitched, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, and at the end of the day, you can't overreact to this one performance from Crawford. He had been going on something like 20 scoreless innings or something along those lines. He had been incredible for them, and he finally came back down to earth a little bit. We've seen him have his ups and downs throughout the course of this season. He is already at a career-high innings pitched, so he's going to have games where he looks gassed. And, that long ball, when he was struggling earlier in the year, that's kind of what was happening to him, was the fact that he was getting taken deep, and that was definitely the case in this game. So to have some flat series from some of your best arms definitely hurts you. Now, overall, what does this series mean? I mean, not all too much. Feels like this was a Dodgers team that was pretty vulnerable, but it is still the Dodgers, which is a great organization. So you have to feel like, you can't kill yourself over it, but at the same time, I mean, it was disappointing to see them go down the way that they did. Now, the Sox, as we approach the trade deadline, are in that weird spot where they feel like they're in the realm of being buyers, but at the same time, now just outside of the wild card spot. It's a seller's market with the way that there are so many teams that feel like they are in play for a playoff spot, and with the current MLB format for the playoffs, that you ultimately have, more opportunities as the final team to work your way into a deep postseason run. So we'll see what they end up doing. Their next series here is coming against the Colorado Rockies, a series that should definitely be winnable for them, and see if they can, start to creep a little bit closer to that playoff spot, and about whether or not it's going to be something for the front office to actually invest in. Sounds like they have been talking about how the front office, that is, sounds like they have been talking about how this is a team that has forced them to believe, but words can only go so far, especially with this Red Sox front office, that we're going to need to see maybe a little bit of proof in order to fully believe what they say. But let me know what your thoughts on this series were in the comments section. That is all the time we have for today, though. Thank you very much for tuning into the GSMC Sports Podcast. Thank you to the GSMC Sports Network for allowing us to host this show. Remember to like, follow, subscribe wherever you keep up with us. Check us out on social media as well for more exclusive short content. And we will be back tomorrow afternoon, same time as always, 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern. We will see you then. Take care. Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go.